Culture matters. For decades, researchers have proven that culture drives performance. Thomas J. Peters and Robert H. Waterman, Jr. focused on iconic cultures in their classic book, In Search of Excellence. If you had bought stock in the companies they profiled when the book was first published in 1982 and held them for 20 years, your portfolio would have returned 1,300%, compared to the Dow's 800% and the S&P 500's 600%. You can take culture to the bank. In an unrelated study, the Harvard Business School gurus John Kotter and James Haskett compared the stock market performance of firms with great cultures and leadership to those with middling cultures over an 11-year period. Share values increased by 901% for the first group, compared to 74% for the second. Revenues increased by 682%, and net incomes by 756% versus 166% and 1%, respectively. Even the most talented people will have only half the impact they should if they work in mediocre cultures. Well before writing Primed to Perform, Neel learned this lesson when the tech startup he helped launch lost its early magic as it grew in size. He simply didn't understand how to build a great culture. Lindsay saw this when she worked with teams of teachers and administrators at public schools and universities. Some of the best laid plans faltered due to cultures of mistrust and blame. As entrepreneurs and consultants who have spent a combined 2 decades working at firms like McKinsey & Company, Citibank, American Express, and 2 technology startups, we've seen many Fortune 500 companies, educational organizations, and nonprofits design great strategies, but too often they have failed to take because their cultures were not primed to perform. Most organizations, even legendary ones, have a hard time building, maintaining, and strengthening their cultures. Absent a systematic, psychologically informed understanding of culture, their leaders have relied on intuition and replication. They have tried to copy Apple, Southwest Airlines, Zappos, or the Ritz-Carlton, only to find that the cultures they built weren't consistent and didn't feel genuine. They didn't motivate in the right ways, so they didn't stick. Total motivation is the missing link. Many of the most admired organizations already use components of total motivation intuitively. They understand that the best way to motivate people is not through rewards or threats, but by inspiring people to find play, purpose, and potential in their work. We found evidence of this one evening in Boston, on the T, the local train, where 2 men in their 20s were discussing how to grow their business. One of them was dressed smartly in khakis and a polo shirt. The other sported a fashionably untucked button-down and a week-old beard, expertly groomed to look ungroomed. They spoke passionately about how their personalized customer service made all the difference to their bottom line. They devised plans to visit their competitors, to ferret out their tactics and weak spots. These 2 men weren't tech CEOs or members of the hottest startup incubator. They were employees at a local Whole Foods Market grocery store. They wore their Whole Foods hats with pride and reveled in working for the only store in their neighborhood that still had hand-stacked produce. This really happened. There was no boss standing over them cracking the whip, no talk of how much money their extra work would earn them. They were brainstorming ways to help their company on their own free time, just for the fun of it. This is adaptive performance in the flesh, and it was a direct result of the Tomo culture that co-founder John McKay baked into his business from its very inception. Though today it has more than 400 locations in 3 countries, Whole Foods Market was born in 1978 as a 3,000-square-foot natural food store. It would be an understatement to say that John Mackey was deeply committed to his vision. He earned so little in the early days that he and his co-founder lived in an office above the store. There was no shower or bathtub there, so we took showers in the store's Hobart dishwasher when we needed to clean up. Mackey related in his book, Conscious Capitalism. Most of us know that there is something special about the culture of Whole Foods. Whole Foods is Fortune magazine's most admired company in its industry in 2015 and has been on the 100 best companies to work for list for 18 straight years. Yet few companies have been able to create the culture they have built. Whole Foods culture feels like an extension of Mackey's personal brand of magic. The fact is, Whole Foods is total motivation incarnate. The phrase total motivation didn't exist yet, but John Mackey intuitively grasped its principles from the get-go.